The first two SEAL teams were created in 1962 by President Kennedy. SEAL Team 1 on the West Coast, SEAL Team 2 on the East Coast. And we had all the underwater demolition teams that went back all the way to World War II. The underwater demolition teams were all turned into SEAL teams, and then we all became SEALs. The mission of all SEALs is to do whatever the commander tells you to do, and well, SEAL stands for Sea, Air, and Land, and those are the three areas that we operate in. So whatever that mission was, whatever it had been, counterterrorism, it could have been regular wartime scenarios, you name it, that's what we were assigned to do. I joined the Navy in 1979. I went into the recruiter's office, and he had a pamphlet on Navy SEALs, and I took it home with me. And when I returned, I said, I want to be a Navy SEAL, not knowing anything about what I was getting myself into. So when you become a Navy SEAL, you have to volunteer. It's all voluntary. And you have to pass a academic testing, and you have to pass a physical test just to be accepted to go to training. Once you do that, you go to basic underwater demolition SEAL training in Coronado, California. And that's a 6-month period of training where you're just taught how to be a SEAL, and the instructors try to get you to quit because they want you to quit in training and not in combat. The hardest thing about the training was the mental grind. You have to be somewhat of an athlete. Obviously, you have to know how to swim, and then you can run and do pull-ups, push-ups, rope climbs, all that kind of stuff. But it's the day after day, getting up, getting yelled at, getting wet, getting cold, getting sandy, and knowing it's not going to end anytime soon. There was one time in training when I felt sorry for myself, and I thought I was going to quit, and it was during Hell Week. And Hell Week is a week of training that's basically you don't get any sleep. So on Wednesday night, we were in the chow hall getting mid-rats, and it was nice and warm and comfortable and dry. And everybody fell asleep because we hadn't slept for 3 days. And the instructors came in and yelled at us, and then they put us in the cold water. And it kind of woke me up, and I stopped feeling sorry for myself. That was it. After I made it through training, I was in BUDS Class 109. I was assigned to SEAL Team 2. When I went through training, you could have been assigned to an underwater demolition team or a SEAL team. There were only two, SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2, and I was lucky and I got assigned to SEAL Team 2 in Little Creek, Virginia. When you're not at war, it's all about training, and that's what we did. We just trained for war and waiting for the call. I was at SEAL Team 2 from 1980 to 1985, and I volunteered to go to SEAL Team 6 in 85 and had to go through another training course for 6 months called Green Team, and I was successful there, and I stayed at SEAL Team 6 from 1985 till 2012. When I went to SEAL Team 2, I was fortunate enough to go to sniper school, and I liked being a sniper. I was a fairly good shot. So when I went to SEAL Team 6, everybody becomes a assaulter initially, and then after a while, I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and then I went and volunteered to go into the sniper teams, which I call the advanced operators, because the other ones, as I said before, were like kind of knuckle dragger guys, not that smart. So I went to the advanced guys and the snipers. They'll love that. SEAL Team 6 was involved in every conflict that you can imagine that this country has been involved in. So in one way or another, I was involved in every conflict from 1985 until 2012. Whether that been a leadership role, whether I was kicking doors down, whether I was a sniper, whether I was a leader on a radio. So there's many, many conflicts that we were involved in. In the Battle of Mogadishu, I was part of Task Force Ranger. I was one of 4 SEAL snipers that went in there to try to take out the warlords that were causing the famine and causing a lot of hate and discontent in that area. And at the time, President Clinton sent us in there, and we did our best, and it turned out to be a real, I don't know, I'm not sure how you're going to do this, but it's a real shit show, and we did the best we could. There were many lessons learned in Mogadishu, one of which was never underestimate your enemy, which I think we did, because we had already we'd done about 6 or 7 operations prior to the Battle of Mogadishu, and each one we were in and out of the city in 15 or 20 minutes. which didn't give the enemy time to group. But when they shot the helicopter down, or the first one down, all bets were off, and then the enemy just swarmed to us, and we were not prepared for that number of people. We didn't have the assets available to protect us and the guys on the ground, so we just had to fight it out with them. I received a Silver Star for Valor in Mogadishu for doing my job.
The cargo ship Maersk Alabama was en route to Kenya with 17,000 metric tons of cargo and 20 crew members on board. Somali pirates seized the ship 240 miles southeast of Somalia.
When it came to Captain Phillips, it was one of SEAL Team 6's most successful missions. Not in respect of, yes, we saved the captain, yes, we took out the pirates, but in the eyes of the SEALs, it was a 1 week to the day where the guys left Virginia Beach and they went to Somalia, took care of business, and made it back home. And why is that a big deal? Because we were still deploying overseas to Afghanistan and Iraq. So any time away from home was bad. So in everybody else's mind, they were just happy to make it home. It was just another day. When it comes to PTSD or any other trauma that the guys experience, when I say the guys, the SEALs, we're no different than any other force. What does make us different is that our guys tend to be older, and they tend to be they get more training and better training. So they're a little bit better prepared than the average 18-year-old that joins the Army is thrust into Iraq. So that is a helpful thing, but it doesn't stop the PTSD from coming. What does help is that we are prepared with chaplains, with psychologists and counselors, and they try to help and brief these guys before they get back home, and they try to see who's going to have problems or who isn't having problems, and try to take care of it before it becomes a real issue. I've had quite a few injuries during my service, everything from backs to knees to you name it. Luckily, I haven't had any gunshot, because what we do in the SEALs, we call that the enemy marksmanship badge. So when you get a Purple Heart, that means that you just gave somebody their marksmanship badge. So luckily, with a head like mine, I was unscathed. So life's good. So I get all my injuries, my major ones, after the service. I was an active Navy SEAL from 1980 until 2012. So that's a long time. I got a little tired of all the traveling and just being gone all the time, and I wanted to try something new. I'd always worked for someone, like a commanding officer, and it was always easy for me to criticize the leadership, and I said I wanted to do something on my own to prove to myself that I could do it. So I took the job as the executive director of the National Navy SEAL Museum, and that's what I'm doing to this day. And so far, so good. I haven't been canned yet, so we're good. The museum is a wonderful place that drew me in because of its mission: preserve the history and heritage of the Navy SEALs and all our predecessors, to honor our fallen at the memorial, and then to serve our families at the Trident House Charities Program. Through our Trident House Charities Program, we have a canine program, we have a scholarship program, we have a family support program that reach hundreds of people. Not only SEALs, but Naval Special Warfare and Special Operations all together. So I get to meet and greet and talk to, and then all the great donors and the patriots out in this country that help me do my job. I get to touch all of those people, and it's a wonderful thing. The future of the museum in 5 to 10 years is going to be fantastic. We are going to have a new 20,000 square foot addition onto this museum here in Fort Pierce that will include a movie theater, all indoor storage for all our valuable artifacts that are currently now outside and getting beat up by the sun. We will have a dining facility of some sort so people can come here and go to a restaurant and look at the beach and just love this place. In addition, we will have a Navy SEAL Museum San Diego. And we are in the process of negotiating with California and San Diego, which is a difficult thing, to find a site to build this over there, in addition to this great place here. Because Once you have, this is the birthplace of the Navy SEALs. You can't move it. It's like the Alamo. Back in 1942, there were no Navy SEALs. So when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, you got to think about it. There was no Frogmen. So within a year, these guys were ready to go to fight on the beaches of Normandy and take the obstacles out, so the landing could happen and we could succeed in World War II. So when you think about that, this all happened right here, and all the training and everything that we do started right here in Fort Pierce, and that's why this place is important. So when you actually get inside and see all that, I think it's important to understand that history, where they started from nothing, and now we're at where we're at. And so you see the movies and the books about SEALs. It all started right here at Fort Pierce. We are the one and only Navy SEAL Museum, and we preserve the history and heritage of the underwater demolition teams, naval combat demolition units, Navy SEALs, OSS maritime swimmers, and scouts and raiders. We have a memorial here with the names of each and every frogman that has died in combat or in training since World War II to the present day. Currently, we're at 301 names. And that's not a lot of names in the big picture, but in the eyes of the Navy SEALs, it is, because we only are a very small force. And since the beginning of time, 1942 to the present day, we've had about 16,000 SEALs. 8,000 of those were created in World War II. So since 1945 to the present, it's only 8,000 guys. When you do the math, that's about 100 to 150 guys a year. That's not a lot. So whenever we lose just one SEAL, it's a big hit to the guys. 20 years from now, there may not be a naval special warfare. You know, there could be a special force like Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Special Forces. And they do away with each service's special force. But the museum will always be here talking about the history. And that's important. And I think that's why these military museums around the country serve a great purpose for the kids and the adults and the vets and everybody.